All right, so for this explainer, we're diving into something pretty radical, this idea of a religion reset. Think of it as a user's guide to reality for a world that, let's be honest, feels like it desperately needs a new way of looking at things.
So, let's just start with this quote, because it really gets to the heart of it. The question is no longer, what do you believe, but what are you resonating with? This right here is about a massive shift that's happening. We're talking about moving away from rigid, hand-me-down beliefs and into a world where it's all about personal resonance. And honestly, this change isn't really a choice for most of us. It's being forced on us by just how overwhelming the modern world is.
So, why is this all happening now? Well, it's because we are smack dab in the middle of what's being called a clarity crisis. It's this bizarre situation where we're literally drowning in information, but our ability to actually see things clearly, to find what's real, that's becoming super, super rare. I mean, we're constantly fighting off mass distraction, division that feels totally engineered, and even the sense that our own ability to just think for ourselves is starting to break down.
And a huge part of this crisis is fueled by a concept called digital feudalism. And think about what that means. Just like old-school feudalism, you've got this trainee group of powerful lords, in this case tech oligarchs, who control the land, which is now our digital platforms. Right? Their algorithms are the new gatekeepers. They build these echo chambers that feed us these perfectly curated realities designed to manipulate how we think and ultimately tear society apart. And you see the result. Truth isn't universal anymore, it's tribal. Facts just become optional.
Which brings us back to this central paradox, summed up perfectly here. We are not in a knowledge crisis, we're in a clarity crisis. I mean, it's wild, right? You have more information at your fingertips than any emperor or king in history. So the problem isn't that we don't have enough knowledge. Not at all. The real fight, the real battle, is for clarity. It's the fight to cut through all the noise, all the spin, and all the constant psychological manipulation.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? What's the antidote? Well, the proposal on the table is a new kind of intellectual enlightenment. And before you check out, this is not some floaty, abstract, mystical idea. Think of it as a practical, even radical, return to clear-headed, sovereign thinking. It's basically a defense mechanism that we have to build for ourselves in this modern age.
Yeah, let's get really specific about what intellectual enlightenment means in this context. It's being reframed here as a tactical discipline. You could almost think of it like mental martial arts, a cognitive combat system. The whole point is to arm yourself with the tools you need to defend your own mind from that daily barrage of manipulation and ultimately to reclaim your own mental freedom.
So this whole framework rests on a few core ideas. First, that truth isn't something you just stumble upon anymore. It's something you have to actively defend. Second, enlightenment isn't some mystical, passive thing. It's tactical. It's active. This also means our minds have got to evolve to keep up with the very tech that's trying to influence us. And maybe most importantly, it all points to this: the only revolution that's really worth having has to start on the inside first.
And that internal revolution, it all hangs on this one absolutely critical idea: sovereignty. This is where we have to get real with ourselves and understand the fundamental battle that's happening inside each of us every single day. It's the battle between our own sovereign, chosen thoughts and the constant pull of indoctrination.
So let's really dig into that. What is the difference? When you look out at the world and you see, any kind of fanaticism, whether it's religious or political, what really separates that kind of blind, programmed commitment from a conviction that is truly sovereign, something you've freely and consciously chosen for yourself?
Well, the difference is everything. Let's break it down. Indoctrination, right? That's programmed from the outside. It demands obedience, it's built on dogma, and its main tool is control. You end up with a borrowed belief. But a sovereign faith, that comes from the inside. It's something you choose. It demands your own agency, your own discernment. And its goal isn't control, it's liberation. It doesn't make your faith weaker. It actually makes it real. It makes it yours.
And this is such a key point. Sovereignty doesn't cancel faith, it deepens it. This whole idea isn't anti-faith or anti-religion at all. It's about being what the source material calls post-fragility. It's about getting past a fragile belief system. The argument here is that a belief you've actually wrestled with, that you've questioned and examined and then chosen for yourself, that is infinitely more powerful and more authentic than one you just inherited without thinking.
Okay, now we're going to pivot to something really mind-bending. This is where we explore the idea that maybe, just maybe, ancient spiritual wisdom and cutting-edge quantum science are actually talking about the exact same reality. They're just using totally different languages. So let's try to decode what this framework calls spiritual technology.
All right, let's look at religious healing. In a spiritual context, we talk about surrendering to a divine power, and that faith acts as a force amplifier, creating real, tangible change. Now look at it through a quantum lens. What's happening? You could say it's a powerful, focused belief, an intention that's so strong it literally collapses a new quantum state of reality. It's choosing a new possibility where the body is aligned with health, not sickness.
Okay, what about the Holy Spirit? That feeling of the presence of God moving through you? Well, this framework suggests that could be interpreted as your biofield, your body's own energetic signature, making a direct connection, interfacing with the larger intelligence of the universe. See? It's two different languages to describe the very same experience.
Let's do one more. Take an ancient ritual like baptism. Symbolically, it's a death of the old self and a rebirth into spirit. Well, what have mystics for centuries called this exact process? Ego death. A conscious shift in your frequency where you die to your illusions while you're still alive. It's not just a ceremony. It's a technology for transformation.
Because at the end of the day, a ritual that you just go through the motions for, one without any real resonance, that's just theater. It's empty. But you take that same ritual and you infuse it with powerful intention, it becomes transformation. The magic isn't in the ritual itself, you see. It's in your conscious participation.
So what's the end game here? Where does all this lead? Well, the framework lays out a potential path for the next stage of our evolution as a species, a move from becoming sovereign thinkers to becoming fully realized quantum beings.
Now get this. The theory here is that the future of human connection isn't going to be mind to mind through language. It's going to be field to field. Just imagine a future where our deepest connections don't even need words. The idea is that as we evolve, our biofields, those subtle energy fields from our hearts and minds, could actually learn to communicate directly with each other. A language of pure, coherent energy, instantaneous transmission of thought and feeling. Wild!
And this proposed evolutionary path is laid out in 3 stages. Step 1 is just mastering our own inner world, our own personal biofield. From there, step 2 is learning to communicate directly with others, field to field. And the final stage, the really out there part, is a full integration, where we essentially become a unit of information, one with the consciousness of the universe itself.
And we have to be super clear about this. Ascension in this context does not mean dying and going somewhere else. It doesn't mean leaving your body. It means a full integration. It's a shift into a state of consciousness that has no boundaries, where your identity isn't just you, your little ego, but it expands to become part of the living, breathing frequency of the entire universe.
And all of this leaves us with one last massive question to think about. When you look at the state of the world today, all the chaos, all the challenges, you have to ask yourself, is the revolution we so desperately need going to happen out there, in our politics, our systems, our institutions? Or is the most profound, the most necessary, the only real revolution, the one that has to happen first inside each and every one of our own minds?